morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome to the program. Good morning, Saint Lucia. Vibes at sunrise. My name is Shannon Lebourne. Tuesday, the second bite of the pie. Another opportunity to celebrate life and try again after what was a slow and rough Monday for many following the weekend's deluge. But you are here, and despite the losses, be thankful and smile. I'm here and I'm ready to get you ready for what lies ahead. Coming up, rape or sexual assault. Rise St. Lucia reacts to a police violation of an 11-year-old as news breaks that another young girl, age 4, has been raped in Dennery. We'll have the exclusive details. And later, we will connect with Dr. Jimmy Fletcher for 2 Cent Tuesdays. Plus, we journey to Dominica and Paris, France, where experts are reacting to snap elections called by the Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honorable Roosevelt Skerit. There's your invitation to remain with us from now until 9. 6:01 the time. The latest news headlines. Your first news of the day with Shannon Lebourne comes up next.
The morning news, first news of the day, is sponsored by Quartz.
Good morning. Our top story, another young St. Lucian girl has been raped and sexually assaulted by an older man. The victim, a 4-year-old girl from Dennery. This latest incident of rape, which happened this past Sunday, has sent shockwaves throughout the community, with family members now in search for swift justice and help for the young girl. Police have since arrested the perpetrator, who was in custody at the Mico police station. According to reliable sources, the father of the 4-year-old caught the man in the act. The perpetrator said he was being controlled by demons. It is unclear whether this was the first time the rape occurred. Whereas we have access to the perpetrator's image and identity details, St. Lucia's laws does not allow for media publishing. There has been growing calls for it to be amended and for the state to implement a sex offenders registry to publicize the identity of sex offenders and help protect victims and the wider community. We will have more on this shocking crime as the details unfold. The National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, is carrying out a nationwide damage assessment to quantify the extent of damages incurred as a result of the weather system over the weekend. Fortunately, NEMO reports there was no loss of life. However, the acting director, Maria Maida, has implored the general public to exercise caution when embarking on rescue efforts during severe weather.
Destruction in the north of the island has prompted the Disaster Committee of the National Emergency Management Organization to carry out assessments to determine the damage caused to homes and property as a result of the torrential rains and flooding experienced on Sunday afternoon. Water rushing into homes and tossing vehicles were an all-too common theme of yesterday's upper-level trough. Families affected spent a majority of their Monday cleaning the waste which had terrorized their dwelling. While the victims of the inclement weather suffered financial loss, NEMO is pleased to report that no life succumbed due to the bad weather.
The disaster committees are on the ground trying to make some assessments on the level of damages to persons' homes. We also note that some persons would have been distressed and traumatized over the loss of most of their properties. And like we have always indicated, we try to encourage people to save their lives and their properties. And at this time, we have no recorded or reported cases of death. And this is one case where you have noted that people have protected their lives.
However, the acting director highlighted that apart from the heavy rain sustained, clogged drains due to an influx of garbage is a contributing factor to the flash floods endured on Sunday afternoon.
The waterways, too many incidences of clogged waterways because of garbage. Persons dispose of their garbage in the waterways or to the back of their homes where it is close to the waterway. So once it has overflowed banks, everything gets washed away. And these things also compromise the roads and the bridges. So again, we're pleading with you to please dispose of garbage. Solid waste has bulk garbage once a month. Please ensure that you know what dates your garbage, bulk garbage is being collected.
Throughout periods of immense flooding, it was observed that many people ventured out to secure property to avert financial loss. While Medad abstained from condemning those actions, she advised the general public to err on the side of caution when embarking on rescue efforts to secure their personal property.
While we cannot say that you should not, we ask that you proceed with caution. Some of those we saw did border on a bit of recklessness, but if you are going to do so, please proceed with caution. There was one gentleman who was in the raging waters trying to save a vehicle. I mean, he could have asked somebody to tie a rope around his waist while he does that. So if anything happens, they can pull him out. But we just have to be careful.
NEMO has been in contact with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Agency and other regional and international disaster response agencies with a view to mobilizing assistance for the affected communities. Reporting for the Hot 7 TV News, I am Kareem Nelson.
Thanks, Kareem. We'll have more on the national recovery effort in just a bit, but first, Saint Lucia police have charged a Dominican national with attempted murder concerning a shooting incident at Ticolor on Monday, October the 24th. That incident happened about 10 p.m. Officers identified the accused as Kyle Seaman, alias Taj. They arrested him in connection with the Ticolor incident, in which a male resident sustained multiple gunshot wounds while sitting on his balcony. Police recently charged Seaman with 2 counts of possession of firearm and ammunition when the SSU, the Special Services Unit, officers recovered 2 guns aboard a vehicle in which the Dominican national was traveling in Richford, Dennery. He was scheduled to make a court appearance on Monday. Lamenting the adverse impact of Sunday afternoon's trough on the education sector, Education Minister Hon. Sean Edward has divulged that a Herculean effort is required to recoup the losses incurred by the Dame Paulette Louise Primary School. The minister, who visited the school in the wake of the raging floods, emphasized that the school suffered extensive damage. Due to the impact suffered, Edward ensured and was said the Ministry of Education wants to ensure that the school will resume operations as soon as.
Learning institutions in the north of the island were not spared by the wrath of the severe weather system. The heavy rains forced the closure of one of the island's more recognized primary schools, the Dame Paulette Louise Primary School. The damage to the building has been described as extensive by education officials. Cleanup teams were dispatched on Monday to remove the clutter which was accumulated by the mass flooding. However, the education minister was unable to identify a date for the reopening of that learning facility due to the severity of losses incurred.
A few moments ago, visited the Dame Paulette Primary School in Union, and the school has been impacted by yesterday's weather system. The damage is pretty extensive. This is not me reporting what has been communicated to me by my technical people, but as I said, I was on the ground at the school and I was able to witness firsthand the extent of the damage. Furniture has been damaged, books, charts and other instructional aid were destroyed, students' records were also destroyed, and the perimeter fencing for that particular facility was flattened in some areas.
Presenting a more positive outlook, Edwards says that this travesty provides a unique opportunity for online classes while the physical classroom is temporarily unavailable.
We have distributed a number of devices in the school system. We have distributed more in the secondary school system than we would have in the primary school system. But I know that the Dame Paulette Primary School, they had their own mobilization efforts to try and secure devices for their children. And so we have to look at the online platform as an alternative to in-class instruction. And if it means that as a ministry we have to partner with the private sector to make devices available to students who do not have devices at the moment, just to ensure the continuity of education, we will spend no effort in doing so.
The minister also gave an appraisal of other learning institutions affected by Sunday's weather system.
There were also reports of damage at the Bexon Primary School. On my way to work from Dennery, I did stop at Bexon. I can tell you that the damage was not very widespread to the extent that school is expected to continue as per normal this morning at the Bexon Primary School. In the case of Dimpolet, we had to make a decision from last night to ask parents to keep their children home because we would have gotten a preliminary assessment from school personnel as well as some of our education officers on the ground. The Coram Secondary School was impacted to an extent, but at our management meeting last night, albeit virtually, management at the Coram Secondary School did indicate to us that they would be in a position this morning to continue as per normal.
Technical teams at the Ministry of Education are expected to complete an audit of the Dame Paulette Louise Primary School to quantify the damages the school harbored. Reporting for the Hot 7 TV News, I am Kareem Nelson.
Now, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has declared that the Climate Change COP27 summit gets underway in Egypt, that the planet is sending a distress signal. Guterres made the remarks in a message on the launch of the World Meteorological Organization WMO Provisional State of the Global Climate. Released on Sunday, the report shows that the last 8 years have been the warmest on record, fueled by ever-rising greenhouse gas emissions. The latest State of the Global Climate report is a chronicle of climate chaos, the UN Secretary General declared. He noted that every heat wave had become more intense and life-threatening, especially for vulnerable populations, because the last 8 years have been the warmest on record. The UN chief observed that sea levels are rising at twice the speed of the 1990s, posing an existential threat to low-lying island states, threatening billions of people in coastal regions. He said we must answer the planet's distress signal with action, ambitious, credible climate actions. And quote, COP27, he continued, must be the place, and now must be the time, the UN Secretary General emphasized. Back home, the president of the Saint Lucia Craft and Dry Goods Vendors Association, Peter Ras Isaac, is calling out the government of Saint Lucia for what he says is the lack of consultations on the recent signing of a MOU for the island's main seaport with Global Port Holdings. Mr. Isaac says the vendors have been left in the dark with no direction as to what will become of their daily hustle. More in this report.
Peter Ras Isaac is incensed over what he says was the exclusion of vendors in discussions surrounding a memorandum of understanding that was signed between government and Global Port Holdings for a port redevelopment project in Castries and Soufrière. The deal has been receiving much attention from the opposition and other interest groups since it was first announced about 2 weeks ago. The project is of particular interest to the vendors who have been plying their trade on the waterfront. Isaac says there is mounting concern among members about the future of their operations and the reason for their exclusion in the decision-making process. He stressed that stakeholder consultation with vendors is not new or unusual, since his members have been fully engaged on such projects in the past. Isaac referenced discussions on a proposed port development deal with Royal Caribbean International several years ago under a previous UWP administration. He notes, even though the deal has gone flat, officials were mindful to include vendors in the consultation process.
We only heard about that. No discussions, no dialogue with us, nothing was nothing was done in terms of having discussions with us as to where we will be. We heard the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Hilaire, saying that the vendors will be taken care of. In what way? We don't know. We are not part of the discussion. We understand he has to make some statements soon. He's talking about things as boardwalk and all these things. And it's not part of any Vieux-Fort move anymore. It's part of Castries and Soufrière. And Soufrière is about boardwalk and Castries, boardwalk. And these people is going to have the port for almost 100% in terms of management and operation. And it's for something like 40 years for just about a mere 40 million. I don't know if it's US dollars.
Isaac believes that the port redevelopment deal with GPH is one-sided in favor of the company and that the government has given away its cash cow in exchange for the 47 million US dollar deal.
We are giving away our national asset, our cash cow to somebody to deal with these things for 40 years, and people on the ground who will be affected by that doesn't know a thing of what's going on. Is that fair? That if these people come here and they will be demolishing the vendors arcade, that the vendors know where they would be, where would they be put, in what location that they, you know, they would put them for the time being? The whole question of how they would relocate and where would they relocate the vendors meanwhile, or is this a question of they will, you know, pay off the vendors and tell them get out of the business of vending or whatever? He said there will be more vendors. Do we really need more vendors?
Vendors President Ras Ipa Isaac speaking there, ending the Daniel Edwin report. In more news, 6 days have elapsed since the rehabilitative works commenced or recommenced on the original St. Jude reconstruction site, and the Minister for Health, Moses Jabatis, is reporting that significant work has already been carried out. He highlights that the compound is significantly cleaner than what existed in previous weeks. However, the minister indicated that a more robust works program is not expected to commence in the immediate future, as the remedial works are expected to continue for the next 3 to 4 months. Kareem Nelson reports.
Only 1 week removed since the recommencement of works on the original St. Jude's building, Minister for Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs Moses Jabatis informs that the landscape of the premises has significantly transformed. On November 1st, contractors descended on the original St. Jude site to commence preliminary works inclusive of cleaning and laying the groundwork for the inevitable erection of a fence. Jabatis, who visited the construction site on Monday morning, stated that notable amounts of debris and clutter has already been cleared from the establishment.
I'm very pleased to report that this morning, before coming up to cabinet meeting, I visited the St. Jude Hospital reconstruction site, and I'm pleased to say that the site is very different to what was there two or three weeks ago. The workers have cleared the site, and the site is much cleaner. I walked through the buildings, and a lot of the debris and all the materials that were left there have now been cleared, and the workers will continue to work throughout this week to ensure that we get ready for more intense reconstruction.
Nonetheless, the minister indicated that due to years of abandonment, rehabilitative works at the health facility have taken precedence. Therefore, more intensive works will commence in the foreseeable future.
According to the engineers, it will take at least 3.5 to 4 months to get the current structures cleaned and ready, because after the initial cleaning, they are going to do some fumigation to ensure that remnants of the waste from pests and so on are completely removed, and then there will be robust reconstruction in terms of structures and the wiring and so on.
Jabatis also highlighted that several young individuals have flocked to the reconstruction site, exploring how their skills could lend to the ongoing works at St. Jude's.
What is interesting is that we continue to have at least 10 or 12 young people out there who are asking for employment. This morning I spoke to a number of them, and hopefully they can get engaged.
Reporting for the Hot 7 TV News, I am Kareem Nelson.
Thanks so much, Kareem. With that, we've come to the end of the news, but before we leave you this hour, let's recap our top story. Another young St. Lucian girl has been raped and sexually violated by an older man. The victim, a 4-year-old girl from Dennery, This latest incident of rape, which happened this past Sunday, has sent shockwaves throughout the community, with family members now in search for swift justice and help for the young girl. Police have since arrested the perpetrator, who we understand remains in custody at the Miku police station. According to reliable sources, the father of the 4-year-old caught the man in the act. The perpetrator said he was being controlled by demons. It is unclear whether this was the first time the rape occurred. Whereas we now have access to the perpetrator's image and identity details, St. Lucia's laws do not allow for media publishing. There has been growing calls for it to be amended and for the state to implement a sex offenders registry to publicize the identity of sex offenders and help protect victims and the wider community. We will have more on the shocking crime as details unfold. 6:23 now the time. That's the news. First news of the day with Shannon Lebourne.
The morning news, first news of the day, is sponsored by Courts.
Ooh la la! See what's new at Courts. We've got great deals on living and dining room sets, appliances, electronics, and smart devices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Courts Ready Finance, 3 to 48-month payment plans available. Shop in-store or online at shopcourts.com. Come see what's new and take advantage of these great deals only at Courts. Bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Good morning. The latest sports headlines comes up next. In sports this hour, the inter-schools netball championships continue at various venues around the island. In the south, Beanfield Comprehensive and Shrewsbury Secondary went head-to-head in an exciting encounter. The final score in that match, Beanfield Comprehensive 21, Shrewsbury Secondary 9. Over at the courts in Miku, Soufrière Comprehensive, they edged out Vieux-Fort Comprehensive by 5 points. Soufrière Comprehensive scored 22 and Vieux-Fort Comprehensive 17. And at the VG Sports Complex, the St. Lucia Sports Academy, they got the better of Leon Hess Comprehensive 26-12. For the Sports Academy, Claudiana D. Rose netted 25 from 29 attempts, and a goal attack, Micaiah Smith scored 1 from 7 attempts. For Leon Hess, goal shooter Jani Thomas scored 4 from 15, and goal attacker Judea Prosper recorded 8 from 11 attempts. Efforts continue here to advance the sport of golf with the focus on youth involvement. As such, the St. Lucia Sports Academy is partnering with the St. Lucia Golf Association on the Golf Introductory Program. The initiative continued last Thursday at the Sanders Golf and Country Club, where students were introduced to putting under the guidance of Coach Canis. The program is part of the St. Lucia Sports Academy's curriculum to develop all student athletes. The regular Saturday morning Northern Cluster Grassroots Cricket program continued on November the 5th at the Bosseju Indoor Facility due to the unavailability of the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground. This session was again well attended, with over 70 youngsters thoroughly enjoying the activities laid down by the coaches. The 5.5-hour-long session was conducted by coaches Alton Crafton, Michaela Edward, and Matteo Boulogne, with the valuable assistance from Kimani Melius and Thomas Elcock. The logistical support was also done by Miss Rosalind Preville and Afra Ford. To end the sports, the youngsters at one of the island's learning institutions now well equipped to undertake their sporting activities as a result of a sports donation. Zephrinus Joseph, Ollie, and Mr. Reno of Canada. This past week, they presented running shoes to students of the past year's Monrepo Combined School. They met the donation through their One World Schoolhouse Foundation and their Rainforest of Reading program. So well done there to end the sports. Latest headlines. Weather is up next. Good morning for Tuesday. The weather now comes on. The winds are blowing from between the southeast and east near 16 miles per hour, 26 kilometers per hour. The weather partly cloudy and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with some scattered showers and a low chance of isolated thunderstorms. Once again, the weather partly cloudy and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with some scattered showers and a low chance of isolated thunderstorms. Residents and motorists in areas prone to flooding and landslides, you are advised to exercise caution as soils are already saturated and any additional rainfall may trigger these hazards. Moist and unstable conditions trailing the trough system will continue to cause cloudiness, showers, and isolated thunderstorms over the eastern Caribbean during the next 24 hours. The intertropical convergence zone is moderately active over the extreme southern portion of the region. A tropical wave, meanwhile, located over the western tropical Atlantic, is moving westward near 15 miles per hour, 24 kilometers per hour, and this wave is expected to affect the Lesser Antilles on Wednesday. Let's recap that information one more time. Moist and unstable conditions trailing the trough system will continue to cause cloudiness, showers, and isolated thunderstorms over the eastern Caribbean region during the next 24 hours. The intertropical convergence zone is moderately active over the extreme southern portion of the region. A tropical wave, meanwhile, located over the western tropical Atlantic. This wave is moving westward near 15 miles per hour, 24 kilometers per hour, and this tropical wave, is expected to affect the Lesser Antilles tomorrow, Wednesday. That's the latest weather forecast supplied by the Hero Meteorological Office in V4 St. Lucia. There's more on the weather online at the weather website www.slumet.gov.lc and online the weather hotline 454-3452. We are in the Atlantic hurricane season. As always, we encourage you to be prepared. Good morning. If you're just joining us, this is the morning show built just for you, where we get you up to speed and out the door with what's trending here in the country. Coming up, rape or sexual assault. Rise St. Lucia weighs in on the police assault on an 11-year-old as news breaks this morning that another young girl, aged 4, has been raped in Dennery. Plus, coming up, we touch base with former government minister Dr. Jimmy Fletcher for this week's edition of 2 Cent Tuesdays, and later we journey to Dominica and Paris, France, where experts are reacting to the snap election called by the Prime Minister in Roseau. Stay with us. Good morning, St. Lucia. It's a vibe at sunrise.
Ooh la la! See what's new at Courts. We've got great deals on living. Ooh la la! See what's new at Courts. We've got great deals on living and dining room sets, appliances, electronics, and smart devices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Courts Ready Finance, 3 to 48-month payment plans available. Shop in-store or online at shopcourts.com. Come see what's new and take advantage of these great deals. Only at Courts, bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Get your clothes sparkling clean with whiter whites and brighter colors. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. Ultra concentrated formula gives more washes with brightening factors added to keep your clothes looking new. And with the added organic fabric softener, your clothes will be soft and fluffy. Joby antibacterial washing powder is also effective in stain removal for cleaner, brighter, softer clothes with the sweet scent of early spring morning. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. My family, my love, my Joby. Available at supermarkets island-wide. For orders, call 455-3076.
Come savor the flavor of 14 of Rodney Bay's best restaurants. The Bay Gardens Resorts presents Taste the Bay Food Festival, a culinary extravaganza you don't want to miss. November 27th from 11 a.m. at the Bay Gardens Beach Resort and Spa. Taste the Bay Food Festival, powered by Backers St. Lucia. For more information, contact the Bay Gardens Resorts at 457-8535 or check out our Instagram page for more updates. Taste the Bay Food Festival, November 27th, 2022, Bay Gardens Beach Resort and Spa.
Sometimes life can knock you off the ground, but surprisingly, an encouraging word can hoist you back to your feet. What we all need is someone in our corner, someone like Dr. Tonji.
Hi, I have 3 questions for you. 1, have you discovered your purpose? 2, have you discovered your ability? And 3, are you planning your life's path?
Dr. Tonji has inspired audiences on radio stations throughout the US and in the Caribbean on Kiss FM with the Dr. Tonji Show. Now, sister station Hot 7 TV teams up with Kiss FM to bring the Dr. Tonji Show to television.
I will share my wealth of experience, my affinity to life, and assist you in fulfilling your call. By tuning in to the Dr. Tonji Show on Hot 7 TV and Kiss FM, you and I will begin to explore the answers to these questions and many more. And in these challenging times, it's just what the doctor ordered.
Mourning a loss? Hot 7 TV wants to help you celebrate the beautiful memory of your loved one with In Loving Memory, Celebrating Lives. Whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some memorable occasion, or the anniversary of the passing of the dearly departed, Hot 7 TV will create a moving video tribute of that special person, showing how much he or she meant to you. Treasured memories, unforgettable moments. Share them with the world and repeat the airing as often as you'd like. Help keep your loved one's memory alive forever in the minds and hearts of all who care. In Loving Memory, Celebrating Lives. Contact us at telephone number 452-6040 or email us at inlovingmemory@caribbeanhottv.com.
Good morning, St. Lucia. Vibes at sunrise. An informative, enlightening, stimulating package. It can be taken as your morning cup of tea. Fortuna Anthony endorsing Vibes in the Morning.
Thanks for making us your choice as we say good morning on this Tuesday, the 8th day in the 11th month, November. How's your November going thus far? Lots happening in our St. Lucia. Next, we go beyond the headlines. My first guest, Dr. Venus Sherry, the chairman of Rise St. Lucia, he's already standing by. But before we go to him on the floor video line, I want to review and replay a story first brought to you during yesterday's program where I think Dr. Sherry and the reporter reported on what I believe should be the natural response of every St. Lucian to respond to reports of young girls and young boys being violated. Let's go to that report one more time.
Angered by the recent sexual assault case involving an 11-year-old, Chairman of St. Lucia, Dr. Venus Cherry, is calling on citizens to speak up against sexual violence and protect the victims. Cherry says too many times the excuse of protecting the victim leads to sex offenders comfortably hiding in plain sight. He is calling for the immediate release of a sex offenders registry and law reform that allows for the identity of perpetrators to be released so that others would not fall victim should these offenders get the legal slap on the wrist.
Has been charged. Now, most times you cannot say people's names until they've been charged. He's been charged. So this thing about this law, we have to protect this. We're not mentioning the perpetrator's name because we want to protect the minor. How is that protecting the minor? That's protecting him. Our legislators need to get together immediately. We need a sex offenders registry. We need a list. We need them out there. We need people to know. Because today or tomorrow, if this guy makes bail and just come and moves right back into our neighborhood, cases take forever in St. Lucia. So 2-3 years is just in our neighborhood. We don't know who he is or why. This needs to stop. I'm furious.
According to him, society has found a way to blame the victim instead of protecting them.
It's infuriating. It pisses me off. It pisses me off. And maybe it's the law, and so maybe that's where we need to rally as citizens. We are a bunch of cowards. We are a bunch of cowards. Politicians can get us to do anything. We'll curse our mothers for politicians. But at that bail hearing yesterday, how many people showed up? How many St. Lucians showed up to say, we do not stand for this? And I don't want to hear another person say it was for sex. It's for rape. That's how I feel about it. Too many times we blame, and they're going to find a way to blame that 11-year-old. Somebody will say, at that age, she looks 18, she womanish. Have you ever seen her walk and talk, or the music she listens to, or how she carries it? Somebody will find a way to blame the victim. Happens in St. Lucia all the time. I don't care if the victim in a rape case or molestation case was a prostitute.
Sickened by the thought of the incident, Cherry speaks on the lingering trauma that follows victims and highlights society's oblivion to the real perpetrators, who he says hide behind official titles.
There are grown women right now that can't have a healthy relationship because of the abuse they've suffered as a child. They can't trust, they can't love, they can't even allow people to touch them. It affects their whole life. Their whole life. And most times those people have nobody to turn to. They're poor. They're struggling. And it's easy for society to come down on them and to make them feel like they did something wrong. Or she was wearing the short pants. She was flirting with him. Somebody can flirt all they want with you, and when they say no, it's no. It's no. And these people live a life going through anxiety and depression, suicidal thoughts. And when we see them in those conditions, we still find a way to make fun of them. And the real criminals wear sometimes a shirt and tie and walks with a briefcase, and we call them Sir this and Sir that and Mr.
Cherry is calling on law enforcement to take a stand against sexual violence even when the perpetrator is one of their own. He says the biased culture of only condoning crimes when it's close to a subject needs to end.
And I'm calling on every police officer to come out and talk against that. This case is not the only one. We have too many examples of police abuse of their spouses, male and female. We have too many cases of police going to assist citizens and then finding themselves involved in sexual stuff with them and being charged, and we don't hear about it. They make bail and they're out or on suspension. I don't know what the rules are in terms of their pay, but they're just living their best life. But if a ghetto youth is arrested and charged, immediately you hear the name and even the pictures now.
Reporting for the Hot 7 TV News, I am Jasmine Duncan.
Jasmine Duncan report leading us into this edition of Beyond the Headlines. Dr. Vina Sherry is already standing by on the Flow video line. I replayed the story this morning because again I saw Dr. Sherry and the reporter reported on what I believe should be the natural response of all St. Lucians to these reports of youngsters, boys and girls being violated. But for some reason we continue to turn a blind eye, at least some of us do. Dr. Sherry is already online. Let me bring him on. Thanks for waking up early, bro. Good morning. Welcome again to the platform.
Morning, bro. Not a problem to wake up for things so serious. We all should be up.
Yeah. Let's start off. We're waking up again. Social media is abuzz. A 4-year-old girl violated, raped by an older man in the community of Dennery. It's happening way too often now. Dr. Sherry is with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you guys.
Let's start off there. How do you start? What's your initial reaction to this latest report?
Well, it's the same as when the 11-year-old was raped. I mean, this has to stop, bro. Like, when I heard that yesterday, I don't like to just run with stuff before, finding out if the validity of it. So all I posted yesterday was Dennery. Please say it and so, because I don't like to just run with stuff. But I haven't had any more information. So all I can say is I was hoping it wasn't true. Mm-hmm. I was really hoping it wasn't true. To find like a 4-year-old, I mean, I was furious that an 11-year-old was raped, but to find out a 4-year-old being molested this way and being violated this way, I mean, like what is really going on? And to be honest, I don't think I can't even excuse mental illness as an excuse for such behavior. Like I don't. Well, I'm a father of 6 girls. I'm a father of 6 girls, and I try my best to practice conflict resolution and to practice letting the law handle when we're violated. But if I'm being frank, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know that I have the mental capacity to sit by and wait for the cops to handle such situations. I honestly don't. I'm not going to be hypocritical with Saint Lucia or the world and pretend, I would have just called the cops and let the cops handle this. I honestly think that the cops would be arresting me.
Yeah.
You guys would be giving the news about Dr. Vina Sherry is being arrested for.
And if you talk to many like-minded and honest St. Lucians, that's their natural reaction as well. On the particular matter, in our investigations, we made a few calls. Reliable sources gave us some information, some of which you have as well. We called a particular police source at a particular police station. We have been invited to a meeting with senior officers who did not want to divulge information via the phone. So I think that corroborates what is on social media, the fact that they have invited us to come to their offices, to meet with them to get information related to the case. So we leave it at that for now. But why, Dr. Sherry, are we not getting mad as a society? We get mad for politics. We get mad when they ban alcohol. We get mad for the sensational stuff. But why not incidents and reports of this nature?
And what really makes me upset is I listen to people and they seem to become immune to this. It's like, to many people, this is part of our culture. This has been happening for so long that they're like, this is not the first time, or this has always been happening. Well, if it's always been happening, at what point do we take a stand and say enough is enough? At what point do we say this behavior is unacceptable by anyone? People go right back to talk about the father of the nation and this and that. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what your family name is. I don't care how much money you are. I don't care if you're a celebrity. I don't care if you're President Obama. I don't care if you my hero Nelson Mandela. If something like that is done by you, there needs to be consequences, serious consequences. And to see, like you said, we get so upset, like we literally stop talking to our friends, our family for politics. We get mad. We will march at Constitution Park if politicians ask us to do so. But something like this, we don't care. Because most times, just like with what's happening with the violent crime in St. Lucia, we turn a blind eye until it becomes us, and then we want everyone to rally with us. It's sickening. It's really sickening because there is no reason when this police officer was brought to the courts for bail hearing that we went 20,000-30,000 strong in front of that courtroom to demand. I don't even know. I understand it's the law. That's why procedure. That's why he had a bail hearing. But I think he would have sent a strong message to any judge immediately how we felt. But we don't. We all talk on social media. We are talking in our little circles. But we show no anger. We show our kids are vulnerable because we don't protect them as a community. This idea that the village raised the child has gone out the window. It's gone. No one can convince me of that anymore. It's gone. And somebody, believe you me when I tell you, somebody somewhere has found some reason to blame the child. I wonder what they will do about the 4-year-old. If that story of the 4-year-old is true, I wonder what excuse they will come up with to blame a 4-year-old, because they somehow found ways to blame the 11-year-old. We are sick. A lot of the men in our country are sick. A lot of men in position, in power, are sick. But also the women are sick because some of them know about the abuse happening for years. And they say nothing. They do nothing. In fact, sometimes they go out of their way to convince the children never to tell anyone else about it, or to tell them it's their fault. You're wearing the wrong skirt. You dress a certain way. Your body's starting to develop. You look older for someone your age. We find all kinds of reasons to blame the victim. And those men walk around in our society, whether they're lawyers, teachers, politicians, police officers, fathers, uncles, brothers, abusing young people. No wonder our young people are still broken. Before they reach a certain age when it's time for them to find themselves in relationships, they have so much trust issues. They're broken glass put together. The broken glass put together that they don't trust, they can't love, and our society also don't have the assistance they need to get over that trauma. How many people actually get professional assistance to help them through this? They live their whole life traumatized by this. And when the situation of the police officer happened, I got so many calls from adult women who've been through that and still traumatized today. We are destroying our people. We are destroying each other. And there needs to be outrage. And not just by women. Men need to stand up and say, no, this is not who we are. This shouldn't be part of our culture, and we shouldn't turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah.
It's just unacceptable.
Yeah. A lot rides on the nation in how we respond now. I think the media is well placed to lead the charge with Rise St. Lucia and other blind-minded partners. But Venus, you know, a lot of times these investigations begin with the family, and we know the reports again and again of the washma. How do these situations further empower perpetrators of these crimes and further affect the victims as well?
Well, I think in such situations, anyone that even bring up the idea of wajma should be charged with obstruction of justice. You know, I swear, like, you can't convince me that any person of sound mind would encourage parents or anyone to take what we say wajima in such situations. And I think our law was revised. I think the new law is that even if, for example, an abused woman doesn't want to continue with the case, the state can continue with the case if there's evidence of the abuse. And I think this should be the case in this situation. This shouldn't be up to a parent. When minors are violated that way, are raped that way, I don't think it should be up to parents to decide what to do with the case. This should be up to the state. The government should see this. Every citizen should be willing to pay extra taxes to ensure that these perpetrators are brought to justice. And not only that, we should go further. This idea of not mentioning those perpetrators' names because our law states that it is to protect the minors. This is not protecting the minors. This is not protecting the minors. I know the name of the officer that was charged. Officer St. Helen was charged. I don't know the name of the minor. I don't care to know the name of the minor. I'm not going to try to find out the name of the minor out of respect for the family and the minor. But don't tell me those men sometimes make bail and they're back in our communities unknown to us, that they're monsters. Unknown to us. And we have no sex. And when are we going to come out and have a sex registry? When are we going to have a list where people can look up and see who those monsters are?
Why are these laws, Venus, Dr. Shay, why are these laws not on the other paper at Parliament? Why are they not in the various manifestos proposed by the political parties? Why are they not on the front burner, changing these archaic laws which protects the perpetrators?
Let me tell you why, and I'm going to be very frank. Most times, we work on laws that affect people of the ghetto. Marijuana laws, drug laws, gun violence, people in the ghetto. You see, when it's such things that everyone can be affected, because a lot of the molestation, or a lot of the rape happening of young people is not happening in the ghetto. It's happening for members of society, high-ranking members of our society. And they control what rules and regulations take place in the country. They control the legislature to some point. Lawyers, doctors, politicians, police officers, high-ranking police officers, they have say, they have sway. Yeah, if this was just happening in the ghetto, oh yes, it would have been changed. But no, some things don't work, don't change, because it would expose too many of the people we look up to. Too many of the people that walk with the shirt and tie, the nice suit, the briefcase, the nice car. Too many of the people that other people open doors for. That's why, if it was something happening in the ghetto, this was just happening in the ghetto, oh, believe you me, would have changed. Stiffer penalties would have been implemented. Did we not just recently have stiffer gun penalties for people with illegal weapons?
Yeah.
We had that happened. This government came in and they made no bones about it. Well, the molestation, the rape and violation of our young people have been happening forever. Forever. From the time I was a child, you could hear about it. I have no stories of politicians that wanted to lower the age of consent to make it okay for them to feast on young people. This has been happening. I'm 44 years old now. So that's why it's not changing, because lawyers, doctors, politicians, people of high name and stature could be affected. Not could, would be affected. Well, of course, they would use their money, their wealth, their influence to try to get out of it. But it happens.
Yeah.
That's why it hasn't changed, bro. Yeah. And we the people need to lobby. We the people need to let our voices be heard. Because the minority I just mentioned, they're the minority. They might have all the power, the wealth, but they're the minority. If we unite against such things the way we unite for politicians, we will be a better nation.
Yeah, and it's about time that we unite and start to put minds together. We'll have a discussion on that. We've heard in recent time sex offenders registry. For the ordinary man out there, describe what it is and why is it necessary, especially now?
But like I said, I don't know about the rest of the people. I'm a father of 6 young girls. I'm a father of 6 young girls, bro. Don't want to find myself in a situation where I'm living my life. I'm trying to obey the law. I'm trying to do everything I can for myself and my family. And my child is violated in that manner. And someone is going to tell me, well, you know the law, let the cops handle this. Handle what? But most times you don't get justice. Most justice delayed is justice denied. It takes years upon years upon years sometimes to get any justice in St. Lucia. And during the wait, you dismiss most times. They're not forthcoming with information to let you know what's happening. If there's no sex registry, these people are... But we know we are a culture where we have our children and 80% of the time we just drop them off to school and we go to work. We go and try and make a bread for tomorrow for them, dinner. Most times they have to take the bus at a very early age. A lot of primary school children, we don't have a bus system where the children get picked up and drop off at school and drop off at home. Most times they have to take bus. Most times they have to walk back and forth from home. Those criminals, there's nothing. They just laugh. They just know that they might get off. It might be thrown away. Wajma is an option. But we need to know who those people are. Had this officer made bail, he'd be back in the community. He'd be back out there. And if you don't know and he's in your community, if you only know him as a police officer, would you not let your guard down? Your child running around or your child just out there? No, we need to know who those people are. We need to know what their locations are. When they move into a neighborhood, there needs to be restrictions. If not, we're not protecting young people. And this is not just about young ladies, you know. Because we hate to talk about the fact that young men go through this too. Young men are raped as well. Young men are raped as well. And they will never talk about it because we know the culture we have. We know young men will never be encouraged to talk about that because the shame. We as a society will find some way to make fun of this. It'll become some make-we later on in their life. We are broken. Why don't we have this? An officer has been charged. There is an officer of about 10 years on the police force. It's a police officer that would come and arrest somebody else for that crime. And you know what I find very disheartening? His colleagues haven't come out. His colleagues, the police officers. Do you remember just recently a young man was doing a live talking about the criminals that are killing one another? Mm-hmm. And then in that live he said to them, the police that has come and brutalize y'all and do this and do that, why you're not killing them? And that part of the clip is all that the police officers were sharing. They didn't bring the whole message. They brought just that part where he was saying, why you're not killing the police officers. And when a judge gave a sentence, gave a ruling that the police officers thought was a slap on the wrist, the young man was not sent to prison. They all came out furious talking about St. Lucians want them to up their game and fight crime. But when police officers are threatened, judges are given slap on the wrist. Where are these officers now? Where are they? And when I speak like this, they label me anti-police. But yes, I am anti-everything bad. I'm anti-police, that is bad. I'm anti-bad politicians. I'm anti-bad pastors. I'm anti-bad priests. I'm anti-bad parents. I'm anti-bad citizens. I'm anti-criminals. I am. I make no apology about it. You know what's funny is when I did the live about this police officer, I called out his name because he's been charged. We know the law. Someone has not been charged and you call the name. You're looking for problems. Mm-hmm. Once you've been charged, we see it in the news. As soon as someone is charged, they can call out their name, but somehow they didn't call out that police officer's name. And they're going to say it's because a minor is involved. But we're not calling out the minor name. As soon as I did the live, happened to be in Castries. A police vehicle with 4 SSU officers in uniform in the vehicle. Pull up right next to me, opposite direction. The driver in full uniform just gave me that stink stare. Just looked at me like the screwiest face he possibly can, like, twisting up his nostrils and everything, and I stared at him right back. Because no one is going to intimidate me. No one.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of our politicians. I'm not scared of police officers. I'm not saying they can't do what they want to do. I'm not, they can do whatever they want. But I'm going to live my life the way I'm living my life right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my utmost to stand up for what's right in this country.
And I always say as well, until the police come out and distance themselves from these incidents, it paints you all, from commissioner down, it paints you all in a bad light. Suffice to say, I think Corporal Zachary Hippolyte has been the only police officer I've seen or heard, and he did so on social media, condemning this act where one of his colleagues has been charged. Until all of you in all rank and file come out and say no, it makes it look like all of you are involved. Dr. Sherry, you continue to hit the nail on the head on each and every national issue. Let's set a date, my friend. Rise and we get the media involved. I'm thinking around National Day, December the 13th, in and around that date. Let's press that red button and raise the alarm that this thing is happening way too often in and around our communities.
Yeah, man, let's do that. Let me end with a message to the new police commissioner. I am so happy that the police commissioner is a woman. I swear. I'm hoping that in itself, just her being a woman, looks to the rights of women. Too many times I've heard of high-ranking police officers abusing their spouse. Abusing their spouse. And nothing is done. Like you said, wajma. Too much domestic issues are just seen as that. Issues between man and woman, and we shouldn't get involved. We should get involved, and we should assist any citizen that is in need of our assistance, especially when abuse is involved.
Yeah. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, my brother.
Dr. Vina Sherry, chairman of St. Lucia, coming in on the hot button issue, the rape and sexual assault of young girls in particular, but young boys as well in St. Lucia. We'll continue the discussion on this platform, but it's always good to have Dr. Sherry in this morning. We'll also take some calls later on the WhatsApp platform and on the landline. We'll share the numbers with you. Stay with us. Still to come, we know a lot of citizens in the north of the island are on the hold for some form of assistance following the trough system over the weekend. Many people lost valuables. Many people's homes were damaged, and the vehicles as well as the personal property, and now citizens want help. Coming up next, the St. Lucia Red Cross will join us here on the platform to discuss what the Red Cross has been doing and what they can do further to provide relief in the immediate aftermath of last weekend's trough system. This is the place to be, the new cost to discuss. Thanks for making us your choice. We'll be back in just a moment.
It is with deep sadness that we announce the death of Henrietta Joseph, also known as Henny of Debray Chazelle. She passed away on Thursday, November 3rd, 2022 at 3:45 a.m. She was 78 years old. The funeral service for the late Henrietta Rebecca Joseph, also known as Henny of Debray Chazelle, will be at the Mount Olive SDA Church, Canada on Sunday, November 20th, 2022. May she rest in perfect peace. The death is announced of Noeline Joseph, also known as Aya of Mount Cayenne View Fort, who passed away at the St. Jude's Hospital on Sunday, November 6, 2022 at approximately 7:30 p.m. He was 71 years old. The funeral arrangements for the late Noeline Joseph, also known as Aya of Mount Cayenne View Fort, will be announced in a subsequent broadcast. The body now lies at Lazarus Funeral Home, New Dock Road, View Fort. May he rest in peace. regret to announce the passing of our beloved Anastasia Montropney Edward, also known as Casina or Othello, formerly of L'Abbaye but resided in Larissos Vieux Fort. She passed away peacefully in her sleep on Thursday, November 3rd, 2022. She was 86 years old. The funeral arrangements for the late Anastasia Montropney Edward will be announced in a subsequent broadcast. May she rest in peace. It is with profound sadness we announce the death of our dearly beloved Felix John, better known as Kenny of Grand Riviere Dennery. He passed away on Sunday, October 23, 2022 at the OKEU Hospital. The funeral service of the late Felix John, also known as Kenny or Barrow of Grand Riviere Dennery, will be held on Saturday, November 12, 2022 at the St. Michael Catholic Church in Larissos, Dennery at 2:30 p.m. The body will then be laid to rest at the Larissos Cemetery. The body now lies at Rambali's Funeral Parlor, Calvary Road, Castries. May his soul rest in eternal peace. It is with deepest sadness that we announce the death of Cletus Lambert, also known as Joe or Joe Boy of Café Choiseul. He passed away at his residence on Tuesday, October 18, 2022. He was 87 years old. The funeral service for the late Cletus Lambert, also known as Joe or Joe Boy of Café Choiseul, will be held at Our Lady of Lourdes Roman Catholic Church, Choiseul, on Thursday, November 10, 2022 at 3:30 p.m. Thereafter, his body will be interred at the Latuni Cemetery. His body now lies in the professional care of Crick's Funeral Home, Riviere Dory, Choiseul. May he rest in perfect peace. The management and staff of Hot FM Communications would like to extend our deepest condolences to the grieving families.
Ooh la la! See what's new at Courts. We've got great deals on living and dining room sets, appliances, electronics, and smart devices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Courts Ready Finance, 3 to 48-month payment plans available. Shop in-store or online at shopcourts.com. Come see what's new and take advantage of these great deals only at Courts, bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Get your clothes sparkling clean with whiter whites and brighter colors. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. Ultra concentrated formula gives more washes with brightening factors added to keep your clothes looking new. And with the added organic fabric softener, your clothes will be soft and fluffy. Joby antibacterial washing powder is also effective in stain removal for cleaner, brighter, softer clothes with the sweet scent of early spring morning. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. My family, my love, my Joby. Available at supermarkets island-wide. For orders, call 455-3076.
A young man from Bagatelle is dead. Calls on the public to not stigmatize his vehicular accidents along the Bexar Highway leaves Tremendous. Shannon welcomes the scrutiny of its CI. One man is in police custody following the shooting death of the wife of a police officer.
Look out for the midday news with Daniela Edwin on Hot 7 TV.
Mourning a loss? Hot 7 TV wants to help you celebrate the beautiful memory of your loved one with In Loving Memory, Celebrating Lives. Whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some memorable occasion, or the anniversary of the passing of the dearly departed, Hot 7 TV will create a moving video tribute of that special person, showing how much he or she meant to you. Treasured memories, unforgettable moments. Share them with the world and repeat the airing as often as you'd like. Help keep your loved one's memory alive forever in the minds and hearts of all who care. In Loving Memory, celebrating lives. Contact us at telephone number 452-6040 or email us at inlovingmemory@caribbeanhottv.com.
Sometimes life can knock you off the ground, but surprisingly, an encouraging word can hoist you back to your feet. What we all need is someone in our corner, someone like Dr. Tanji.
Hi, I have 3 questions for you. 1, have you discovered your purpose? 2, have you discovered your ability? And 3, are you planning your life's path?
Dr. Tanji has inspired audiences on radio stations throughout the US and in the Caribbean on Kiss FM with the Dr. Tanji Show. Now, sister station Hon 7 TV teams up with Kiss FM to bring the Dr. Tanji Show to television.
I will share my wealth of experience, my affinity to life, and assist you in fulfilling your call. By tuning in to the Dr. Tanji Show on Hot 7 TV and Kiss FM, you and I will begin to explore the answers to these questions and many more. And in these challenging times, it's just what the doctor ordered.
Ooh la la! See what's new at Courts. We've got great deals on living and dining room sets, appliances, electronics, and smart devices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Courts Ready Finance, 3 to 48-month payment plans available. Shop in-store or online at shopcourts.com. Come see what's new and take advantage of these great deals only at Courts. Bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Get your clothes sparkling clean with whiter whites and brighter colors. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. Ultra concentrated formula gives more washes with brightening factors added to keep your clothes looking new. And with the added organic fabric softener, your clothes will be soft and fluffy. Joby antibacterial washing powder is also effective in stain removal for cleaner, brighter, softer clothes with the sweet scent of early spring morning. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. My family, my love, my Joby. Available at supermarkets island-wide. For orders, call 455-3076.
Hey Saint Lucia, Dylan Edwin here, national record holder for Saint Lucia. I invite me to join Shannon Lebourne's show, Good Morning Saint Lucia, on Hot 7 TV every morning. Now I'll see you at the finishing line.
Guys, look at this. We had no time to prepare. I tried to save my car. It was floating away. My neighbors, it was, oh my God, look at this. This came out of nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. This right there is a 8-foot wall. Infested Flamboyant Drive. Everyone's vehicle is covered. My vehicle floating away. What? Look at the iron, the bridge.
We say pray for us, sir. This has never happened in my lifetime. The river by my home has literally overflooded its banks. So my car is here, and this is like, bro, this literally happened in the space of minutes. I literally just came home from church, and like there was barely any rain, and now look at my car is being moved. The car in the back.
This is the situation at Caribou right now. The place is flooded. There's sparks in the water. The guests were evacuated from the Caribou.
So the scenes in many communities on the northern side of St. Lucia on a Sunday, a quick turn of events which led to flooding, land slippage and millions in losses. Still we're doing the assessment to quantify the exact extent, but many St. Lucians still coming to grips with exactly what happened. Many are still asking and in search for some help. The St. Lucia Red Cross is always one of the first to respond and to provide assistance in the immediate aftermath of such disasters. And the friend of the show, the head of the Saint Lucia Red Cross, Mr. Hubert Pierre, is already standing by on the floor video line. I'll bring him on in just a bit. But this incident, this weather system over the weekend, comes just as negotiators gather in Egypt. Climate change negotiators gather in Egypt, and a warning this morning from the UN Secretary General that the climate is sending us clear signals and clear warnings. We have contributed through greenhouse gas emissions to the warming of our climate, and that has resulted in sea level rise. Who is on the front end of this? Us in islands like St. Lucia, small island developing states known as SIDS. We don't contribute much to climate change. Our level of greenhouse gas emissions minimal, but we suffer most when events like we saw last Sunday happen. So it's climate change in focus on our front line we experienced last Sunday. Mr. Pierre, good morning, sir. Thanks for always coming on. Thanks for waking up early.
Yeah, pleasant good morning to you and to all listeners. And yeah, I've been up very early, and we have to move because you have a number of things you want to get done today.
Yes. What have you done thus far in the immediate aftermath of last Sunday's trough in as far as providing assistance to the affected communities?
Well, we have provided cleaning kits, hygiene kits and blankets to people in Mac, first of all, which was the first place that we went, and we are working into Corinth. We have already started distributing the same non-food items within Corinth, and today we continue our assessment, because ours is, the response is not do assessment and go back. We actually go in with some stuff. Excellent. Because we have understood what has happened. Excellent. And our response has been immediate. As soon as we heard normally in times past, maybe the very Sunday afternoon would be out there, but give and take, waiting for the water to recede and all the other things that go with it, we were able to start our distributions and our assessment simultaneously yesterday morning.
Yeah, excellent news. We'll talk about the plan for today and moving forward. But what's your assessment on the ground? How bad is it? How much are people suffering at this time?
Well, people will always suffer as long as they have been impacted, and they need the support, they need the help, and that we understand, and we try to do our very best under the given circumstances. Like as I said, we are moving, we are working assiduously to ensure that we reach every man that has been affected.
Yeah, excellent. How strong is your team? Today you continue in Corinth, and you hope to head further north, I assume. Mr. Pierre is still with us?
Yeah, we are back. We are back.
Excellent. I was asking, how strong is your team of volunteers? I know you will continue in Corinth today and you hope to head further north later on. We seem to be having some communication challenges. Lost Mr. Hubert Pierre, but he will rejoin us momentarily from the Saint Lucia Red Cross. So far, they have donated sanitary kits and providing assistance in Mark and other communities. Mr. Pierre is back.
Yeah,
I was asking you, how strong is your team of volunteers and what's the schedule for today and the upcoming days?
Okay, the fact is that the strength of our volunteers lie with the fact that myself, who have been there for 30-something years, on the ground with them, I'm not in St. Lucia, nor is the Director General, but the volunteers are on the field. And we have those coming from Bexon, from Ancillary, to support, those from Castries who would go and do what they're doing. So as a matter of fact, we'll continue our work. As I said, we'll leave no stone unturned until we reach the final man who needs something. We're going to review as time from time. I should be back in country later this week. And we'll bolster anything else that we need to do.
Excellent. Thanks for that clarification. People requiring assistance, how can they get in touch with your offices?
There are two things that they can do. If they can call the office and give their names and their addresses, and we usually take it up from there. The reason being because now is a time where each and every, the greedy, the thief, the crooked, would come and say, I lost my house. But when I bought certain things, that's why we work by survey. Yeah. If you have a problem, you have an immediate need, or we have missed you or passed you or recognize you were there, call the office and we'll get back to you immediately.
Excellent, excellent. When we take a look at, and I know you're not here, but when we take a look at a lot of the videos, we see pounds and we see pounds of garbage, litter, refuse coming down with the water. How much does our indiscriminate garbage practices, garbage disposal practices contribute to intensities of weather systems like we saw on the weekend?
Well, it may be about 30 or 40% as far as that is concerned, given a percentage. But generally, the problem with St. Lucia is that we don't look at the history profiles that we have and make critical decisions, and I say this to enable us to save human lives, because right now we construct houses in known riverbeds in a valley. So the valley is surrounded with the mountain, the rivers have been there. All the river wants is a whole lot of water, like a sudden downpour like we had last week. That's all the river wants, for it to swell again. So if your house is in the riverbed, you know what's going to happen. It can even be on the bank. Then you're going to get flooded. So the history will show us that areas which have been constructed in riverbeds and around, these are they that get flooded. And I'm really sorry about this, because we have, in other places we tell people build on stilts, but don't build downstairs. But many people in St. Lucia, they build downstairs in these given areas because they need a form of income. And this is what is happening.
Yeah, our bad practices. But finally, as we wrap up, help is on the way through the St. Lucia Red Cross for people who have not seen or heard from your teams as yet.
Yeah, help is on the way. Help is definitely on the way. As I said, we will continue to help persons all throughout this week who are in need. And I should be back in town on Friday morning early enough, so I would be on the field instantly.
Yeah.
So I will review matters with some volunteers and go back and see what's needed. I expect bedding to be needed, but again, there we are. We cannot just give mattresses. I have to prove that you have lost your mattress rather than using the situation to gain a mattress.
Yeah, we'll touch base with you again when you return on island. But still some weeks left till the Atlantic hurricane season winds down. Well, what say you finally to our people here on the mainland?
Like I said last week, or the last time we spoke, that we need to remain vigilant. It's not a matter of hurricane. It's not even a matter of storm. Right now, what we had again was a trough with a wave, and we saw the downpour. And that is extremely dangerous. A few years ago, we asked that the language of the meteorological office be changed and make it as basic as possible. If you hear trough is rain, if you hear wave is rain. If you live in a low-lying area, you should have known that you're in a riverbed, so you can expect the worst. But what we saw on Sunday was really unexpected. We never expected this, and of course it's just a weather forecast, and the concentration of rain was such that it fell in that given area. Even the Darren Sammy cricket ground got flooded, and that speaks to a number of things.
Speaks to a number of things. Mr. Pierre, always nice speaking to you. We'll chat again soon.
Yeah, okay, it's a pleasure here. You take care and have a nice day.
Excellent. The Saint Lucia Red Cross is on the ground, and if you haven't seen them by now, help is on the way. They have visited the community of Mark in Bexar, providing sanitary kits and providing initial relief supplies to affected residents. Mark was devastated by the floodwaters and some landslides in Mark as well. Yesterday they were in the Corinth area, and they will be in Corinth again, distributing supplies to affected households. There are numbers that you can call to contact the Saint Lucia Red Cross and to report distress cases with them. We'll share these numbers as we conclude the program and as we go on this morning. But help is definitely on the way. Many St. Lucians have registered losses and are seeking for assistance. The St. Lucia Red Cross have been providing assistance, and they will continue. So we look forward to the updates from them. From the government end of things, the Prime Minister has said that he will do what is necessary to ensure the country bounces back. We await the specifics. We also know that calls have gone out to regional and international partners for help, but in the immediate aftermath, St. Lucians are asking what is going to be done. The St. Lucia Red Cross says help is on the way. Again, as we highlighted yesterday, the flooding really brought to the surface poor garbage disposal practices. You live near a river, we continue to see people just throwing litter out the windows, into the river courses, fridges, old stoves, pieces of furniture, everything coming down in the water course. I could tell you on Sunday I saw firsthand at least 2 refrigerators entering the Castries Harbour with tons and tons of litter accompanying these pieces of equipment. So St. Lucians, we really have to do better with our garbage disposal practices. Use the litter bins. You use something, take the wrappers home with you, take the empty bottles home with you. Don't just throw it away. The garbage won't disappear. It will compound the situation by clogging the drains and clogging the waterways. So let's continue to practice proper disposal practices and to improve in that regard. Also, questions are surfacing this morning and overnight on the silting program, which is normally undertaken by the Ministry of the Infrastructure. Citizens are asking for an update on the desilting and debushing program, which normally forms part of preparatory plans ahead of the Atlantic hurricane season. How many rivers have been desilted? Many questions are being asked, and we await the update from the officials. But we are in the Atlantic hurricane season. The prediction is that it would have been a busy hurricane season. It is living up to those predictions thus far. We're not out of the woods just yet. Few more weeks to go before the Atlantic hurricane season winds down. So continue to practice safety and continue to do what is necessary to be prepared. We hope for the best, but in these circumstances, we always prepare for the worst. Our hearts go out to our friends in the neighboring islands. Dominica severely impacted as well. Next, we journey over there to talk about the political developments. We'll also speak about the impact of the storm. This is Good Morning St. Lucia, your new course to discourse, your morning cup of tea. Stay with us. We'll run a few more moments of that footage which highlights climate change at our doorsteps here in the small island developing states.
Me say pray for us, sir. This has never happened in my lifetime. The river by my home has literally overflooded its banks. So my car is here, and this is literally in front of my house. And it has not even been raining for too long. Let's see if I show you on the other side.
This is the situation at Caribou right now. The place is flooding. There's sparks in the water. The guests were evacuated from the Caribou.
That's the gap more she by to go up basic way.
See the fire station flooded.
Thanks for staying with us. Our time just about 7:34. At 26 minutes before 8 o'clock, we go up until 9. And next, we go over to the Nature Isle, Dominica, where the Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerit, has called general elections some 2 years plus ahead of the constitutionally due deadline. Stay with us next. We continue the discussion here on Good Morning Saint Lucia.
Ooh la la! See what's new at Quartz. We've got great deals on living and dining room sets, appliances, electronics, and smart devices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Quartz Ready Finance, 3 to 48-month payment plans available. Shop in-store or online at shopquartz.com. Come see what's new and take advantage of these great deals. Only at Quartz, bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Yeah, sir. Blanc. Nothing can pass it for the time. The windows on the BMW just go down, or the wipers.
Clothes looking new, and with the added organic fabric softener, your clothes will be soft and fluffy. Joby antibacterial washing powder is also effective in stain removal for cleaner, brighter, softer clothes with the sweet scent of early spring morning. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. My family, my love, my Joby. Available at supermarkets island-wide. For orders, call 455-3076.
Sometimes life can knock you off the ground, but surprisingly, an encouraging word can hoist you back to your feet. What we all need is someone in our corner, someone like Dr. Tanji.
Hi, I have 3 questions for you. 1, have you discovered your purpose? 2, have you discovered your ability? And 3, are you planning your life's path?
Dr. Tanji has inspired audiences on radio stations throughout the US and in the Caribbean on Kiss FM with the Dr. Tanji Show. Now, sister station Hot 7 TV teams up with Kiss FM to bring the Dr. Tanji Show to television.
I will share my wealth of experience, my affinity to life, and assist you in fulfilling your call. By tuning in to the Dr. Tanji Show on Hot 7 TV and KISS FM, you and I will begin to explore the answers to these questions and many more. And in these challenging times, it's just what the doctor ordered.
Mourning a loss? Hot 7 TV wants to help you celebrate the beautiful memory of your loved one with In Loving Memory, celebrating lives. Whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some memorable occasion, or the anniversary of the passing of the dearly departed, Hot 7 TV will create a moving video tribute of that special person, showing how much he or she meant to you. Treasured memories, unforgettable moments. Share them with the world and repeat the airing as often as you'd like. Help keep your loved one's memory alive forever in the minds and hearts of all who care. In Loving Memory, celebrating lives. Contact us at telephone number 452-6040 or email us at inlovingmemory@caribbeanhottv.com.
A young man from Bagatelle is dead. Calls on the public to not stigmatize his fatal accidents along the Bexar Highway leaves Tremendous. Shannon welcomes the scrutiny of its CI. One man is in police custody following the shooting death of the wife of a police officer.
Look out for the midday news with Daniela Edwin on Hot 7 TV.
I travel quite a lot, but sometimes we are out of the country for weeks at a time. The good news is that because of the internet and modern technology, I can always stay in touch with what's happening in St. Lucia. When I do, my go-to site is Good Morning St. Lucia, Vibes at Sunrise with Shannon and Lebourne. Up-to-date news, good discussion, interesting guests, and a great host. What more could anyone ask for? My name is Richard Peterkin, and I endorse this message.
Good morning and thank you for staying with us here on this Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. The program Good Morning St. Lucia will go up until 9 o'clock, just about 20 minutes before 8 our time. Let's make the journey now across to the Nature Isle, Dominica. And in just a bit we will hear from the island's Prime Minister Hon Roosevelt Skerit, who addressed the nation calling snap general election some 2 years plus ahead of the constitutionally due deadline. My first guest on this segment is already on the phone line, so let me go to him with no further ado. Political activist, he's been monitoring the situation on the ground, not political activist but political observer, Dominican national at heart, and Mr. Simeon Joseph. Simeon, good morning, thanks for waking up early. Not too long ago you guys went to the polls.
Not too long ago we went to the polls, and it seems as though I'm not saying that I don't even know what to say at this juncture because of the fact that there has been a dispensation, so to speak, of you could say political opportunism that has led us where we are today. So we might be embarking on another political meandering process again. That's all I can say.
I like how you put it, and we'll go deeper in just a bit. But how much has this announcement come as a surprise to the ordinary Dominican?
Well, maybe to the ordinary Dominican, but to any political observer in Dominica, maybe to the ordinary Dominican. And from what I gather, it has even taken the supporters of the ruling party by surprise, and maybe some supporters of the opposition. But given the usual semantics of the current leader of the country, given the political terrain and background that existed in Dominica, given a number of situations that prevail around the country, any keen political observer in Dominica would not be too surprised. And so based on these realities, one cannot say it has been a surprise at all, because you cannot put past any political action from the current leader of the Dominica Labour Party or the head of the country to expedite and to monopolize, so to speak, on the political reign that he has currently.
Political monopoly. He has reigned for about 22 years, has about 3 years left on this current tenure. We talk about the political strategy that you think this points to, but are there any developments behind the scene internally within the Dominica Labour Party which has maybe forced the hand of Prime Minister Skerit to call snap elections at this time?
Well, correction. He has been there for 18 years. The Dominica Labour Party has been there for 20 years. Remember, he took over after the death of the late Prime Minister Pierre Charles in 2004. He was Minister of Education then. So that is the situation. But regarding the internal or behind the scenes realities of the Dominica Labour Party, there have been rumors, and that is highly suspect. Now, let us look at political reality, okay? Mm-hmm. There is no government or there's no political party in any country across the world, where certainly when you look at places like Britain, the United States, countries like Jamaica and Trinidad, that does not have its own internal political wranglings and differences. That is part of the nature and the landscape of any political organization. And so therefore, for anyone to suspect that there may have been any behind the scenes things within the Labour Party, I think it speaks of the need to be more real when it comes to the nature of politics. There's no political party that is devoid of internal things behind the scenes. And so one of the things the Labour Party has in Dominica has been very good at is to be able to mask and to be able to shield from the public any internal differences or wranglings, and that can be given as credit to them, unlike the opposition United Workers Party, where you have had many candidates and many people who are quick to show their opposition and their difference and differences of opinion and their differences of position publicly, which has been very unhealthy for the party and which has been very destabilizing both for the leadership, organization and management of the party. And it's a sad reality, and I think that has to a very large extent undermined the confidence in the opposition. That's one thing I'd like to say. However, there is no doubt, and then if you, but on the other hand, if you were to speak to individual members of the Dominica Labour Party, if you are to speak to people in the leadership of the Labour Party, in the organization and management of the Labour Party, many of them would fearfully, with much trepidation, express a lot of discontent, a lot of disappointment, not necessarily with the party, but with the leadership of the Dominica Labour Party. And so they would feel often intimidated and harangued, so to speak, by a very high level of fear if it was ever found out that they were criticizing the Prime Minister or the leadership of the party. So there's a difference there. There's a difference. Members of the opposition, maybe some of them had no regard sometimes for the leadership of the United Workers' Party, and so they felt that it would have been an open landscape for them to be publicly criticizing, without realizing that that is dangerous, destabilizing, and provides a certain level of insecurity to their supporters. That caused a lot of people to be neutral. On the other hand, you had there were many in the Labour Party. For instance, I was privy to a lot of discussions of labour rights, and so who would express a lot of discontent and worry as to what was happening in the Dominican Labour Party. Roosevelt Skerit, being the astute politician that he is, Roosevelt Skerit being that savvy, psychological, I don't want to use the word manipulator, but or opportunist, but someone who knows when to seize the right moment for his political benefit, I suspect, realized a number of certain situations that existed and decided to surprise, not necessarily to surprise those whom he thought he could surprise with a snap election. Because to the best of my knowledge, the opposition were anticipating it. I certainly am aware that the interim leader of the opposition United Workers' Party was aware a day or so before that the elections were going to be called. There were a number of UWP candidates who were alerted, from my understanding, to the fact that this man was going to call an election, and so they were not surprised. I think he sprung it on them when they, from his point of view, seemed to have been disorganized, and so also too, in order to consolidate his reign of power on the UWP, decided to, what he said, obviously create a fresh face for the Labour Party. And so what he has done is maybe encouraged or pushed aside some of the long-standing members of the Dominican Labour Party, like Honorable Ian Douglas and, from my understood, other ministers, and so decided that he's going to put a fresh slate of candidates, as he says, to give the Dominican Labour Party a fresh face. Now, there are many questions that can arise from that, because just 2 years ago,
he gave them
that is the same thing he said.
As the same thing he said.
He brought 13 new fresh faces. In 2009, in 2014, every time he spoke, he said he was going to re-energize the Labour Party, reinvent the Labour Party, create a new team that would renew the Labour Party into the 20th century. So, I mean, does that suggest that the Labour Party
that team has gotten so old in less than 3 years?
And still not, well, the opposite of fresh is still.
Yeah.
No, but the thing is, you see, that can create two impressions. One is that as a leader and an astute politician, having always to change your candidates, and one can say that it is good strategy. That once you get a pulse that people are not happy with the representative or the elected representative of the choice, then the best thing to do to consolidate your power and to maintain your gain at the polls is to put a new face, put a new name, okay? And to give people the impression that you want to work with them for better representation. On the other hand, what it can suggest from a leadership perspective, from a management perspective, is that you are not good at identifying the best human resource. It speaks of a certain inadequacy, and it speaks of a certain lack of judgment, that you are not able to identify persons from the Dominican population who can, of essence, make a lasting and what you call a contribution to the government, to the country, that would create a legacy of good governance. And so it could perhaps speak to his lack of judgment in identifying the right people. And while he may have been seen as a maverick in that regard, any keen observer who is knowledgeable about how you call it, leadership and management, would say that as a CEO, to be always rotating your team of managers, it speaks of two things: a bad organization or the incompetence of your people who lead. Because nobody who wants to stabilize anything would want to be always. Do you think KFC would change their CEOs, or any major organization would change their CEOs? Thing. Just as look at what's happening in the United Kingdom. It speaks, and the Conservative Party. I mean, the Conservative Party, no doubt, is in shambles, and so they're trying to stay afloat. And after electing perhaps one of the most controversial and obviously disorganized prime ministers of their era, in the name of Boris Yeltsin, of course, giving them an outstanding majority in the last election. But look at what has happened. They have gone down. They have gone precipitously down the cliff of wanting to judge 4 prime ministers in 4 years. And Boris Johnson left a legacy of bad governance and bad leadership. They have repeatedly changed people, and again, so that speaks to it. And then, so what has happened? What has that done? It has created a more unstable United Kingdom. It has created a more disorganized Conservative Party. It has caused a lot of people to move away from the party, and to the extent, or if you watch and listen keenly to what is happening in the United Kingdom, the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom is the most divided now than it has ever been.
Yeah, so we'll take a look, Mr. Joseph, how, and we're bringing it back home, how the Dominica Labour Party will transition and morph out of all of these quick changes that we've seen ever so often. 2 years now, he's brought on 17 candidates, new candidates having to change. And I know the race is now on where current MPs are trying to convince their constituents that their name will still be on the ballot box the next time around, but that's a wait and see. How much did the departure of Mr. Lennox Linton contribute to the political strategy here, the quick snap of the general election, to call a general election, and what changes do you see in the result, if any?
Very good question. Two very good questions, in the sense that I have no doubt that one of the things that Roosevelt Skerit, or I try not to call the name too much, but I'll say the Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party. I don't like to personalize things. It's not about Roosevelt Skerit. It's about the leader of the Dominica Labour Party and the Prime Minister of Dominica. I think one of the things that this gentleman has always yearned for is the departure of Mr. Lennox Linton, who has been a very fierce opponent and formidable opposition leader away from the political landscape. And obviously that would be the desire of any opposing political leader. You would want to see your leader away from there. And so that played well into the playbook of his political strategy, in the sense that he I think seized the moment when the opposition seemed to have been leaderless, when the opposition was in a moment of transition, and when the opposition was in a moment, a time of seemingly disorganization, to spring an election on the people. I'm absolutely certain that this being perceived as a wise move. Now, you have to be careful when you use the word wise, because sometimes there is wisdom that is shrewd, sometimes there is wisdom that is strategic. You understand? So I think it was a very shrewd move at that moment to spring an election at the time when the opposition seemed to have been, by all intents and purposes, looking for leadership or just search for a leader. So there's no doubt that influenced his decision now. And then that's it. Now, the second question that you ask is how it's going to impact the election, right? Right. Well, from what I understood, as of this current moment, I'm not privy to any formal final decision, is that the opposition parties have decided that they will not contest the election. I'm not sure if they are going to not contest or if they're going to boycott, okay, the election. And I see that as two different things. And maybe I don't want to dwell further into it, but if one is to boycott an election, now there is precedence and there's history to people boycotting elections. Of course, we had the thing in Syria, we've had situations in Afghanistan, we've had situations in Peru. I don't know if you remember in Jamaica in 1983, the PNP did not contest the elections in Jamaica. So there is precedence to parties boycotting elections. In all, and even in Slovenia at one point, and Serbia, another point. what happened in all these cases is that the country degenerated into countries and states of chaos. Okay? And it gave rise for the alienation of the opposition parties that did not contest these elections. As to whether that is going to be the case in Dominica, I'm not sure. Now, what is important to note, that is in all the instances, with the exception of Jamaica that I mentioned before, it was very clear that these opposition parties that did not contest these elections did not enjoy the possibility of winning that election. And so rather than entering elections with the possibility of being defeated heavily, they decided not to contest. That was not the case in Jamaica. I think in Jamaica it was more strategic.
Is that the case in Dominica at this moment?
Right, that is what I'm heading to. Because in Jamaica, what the PNP did at the time is that they used that opportunity to re-strategize, to reorganize, to find new leadership, and to strengthen their base, and to allow the people of Jamaica to see the incompetence of the Jamaica Labour Party at the time, which came to the fore. Because Edward Siaki at the time used the opportunity to really dominate the political landscape on Jamaica. The UWP in Dominica enjoys, you could say, massive amount of support. In the last election, they enjoyed over 16,000 votes out of the voting thing. Now, when you look at that and you juxtapose it against the winning numbers of the Dominica Labour Party, the United Workers' Party support was solidly Dominican-based, people who resided in Dominica. The Dominica Labour Party support was largely based, or victory was largely based on their support in the ground, and a massive number of diaspora Dominicans coming in by the plane loads to vote. So what that said was that the Dominica Labour Party did not win from the support of the majority of Dominicans who live in Dominica. And so when you look at the support between both parties, one can safely say that the majority of Dominicans who live in Dominica did not support and does not support the Dominica Labour Party government. So by now they are minority government in the country. If you have to look at it like that.
Well, if you have to look at it like that, yes, but it is very well known and common knowledge that the coffers of the Dominica Labour Party is so deep. There will be interesting times ahead as to how quick they can maybe mobilize some of that external support from the diaspora.
Oh, well, I think
contributed so heavily to the last polls. But
all indications are that they have already begun spending their money. I mean, I have met friends of mine who have told me that they have already been sourced to come down to vote. And so therefore, but I think what is going to happen between you and I think by all assessments, this is going to be a sham election. Because of the fact that if the opposition parties decide not to contest
or to boycott,
or to boycott, what's going to happen on nomination day? Are there going to be nominal independent candidates? Who will they be? What amount of vote are they going to gather? And should they win a seat, what will they do? Are you going to stay singular in the opposition, or are you going to cross the other side and become members of the government? Which, I mean, because there's precedence to that in Dominica. In 1975 and 1980, there were independent candidates, people like Mr. Conrad Cyrus, who represented the Grand Fork constituency, who eventually joined the Dominica Freedom Party, and former Attorney General Jenna Amo, who contested as an independent in the Peebush constituency, and eventually went on to become the Attorney General of Eugenia Charles. So the question is, what will they do?
What will they do? Currently, the makeup is a bit different. You don't have independent MPs, but you have opposition MPs. Who everybody will be focused on what is the next move come nomination day, because they have a responsibility not to a party but to a specific constituency.
Precisely, and I think that's the dilemma.
That's the current dilemma. So interesting times ahead there. Quickly, Mr. Skerit has said that he does not expect to go beyond the 25-year anniversary sort of given to the Dominica Labour Party through this tenure, subtly implying that his time at the helm is winding down. Speak to succession planning within the Dominica Labour Party. Who next may be in line? Because there's indication, although, that Roosevelt Skerit moving away does not automatically translate to the name Skerit moving out of the Prime Minister.
Good observation.
Or the
very good observation.
Government House.
I would like to say two things about that. But when he also said he's not going into 2025, he also said that he will not. He wants to lead the party into the next election and perhaps demit office in 2.5 years. I will tell you one thing: Roosevelt Skerit is a very thoughtful psychologist and has had the indomitable reputation of knowing how to play on people's minds. But anybody who knows Roosevelt Skerit well will tell you, if he says go right, he means go left. If he says go forward, he means go backward, because he's not somebody. The cunningness of his psychology is that he never lets people know what his plans are. Okay, so the fact that he has said he's not going to, I personally will say that he maybe hopes to give up the reins of power right after the next election, and he just doesn't want people to anticipate his next move, because he's a very diligent chess player and loves to say the word checkmate. That's part of his maneuvering, so to speak. He likes to know, well, okay, I'm telling you go there, but I'm really moving down that direction. So by the time you're expecting me to be there, I will be over there. That's the playbook of the gentleman that we are speaking about. Now you notice I mentioned his name this time. I didn't say Prime Minister. I didn't say leader of the Dom, because you're talking about a personality there, right there. Succession planning for the Dominica Labour Party, they have always said for the past 22 years, if not Roosevelt Skerit, who? That will be an interesting question for they themselves to answer. If not he, now who? Now that would depend on the slate of candidates that he's going to put forward. Now every election that he has put a fresh face, to my mind, he has put in less and less competent leaders. He has basically reined in a pool or a shoal, so to say, of followers. People who admire him and worship him. And so these are not, how you call it, productively embedded qualities of leadership. Leaders emerge. I personally have not seen anyone in the Dominica Labour Party currently that has emerged as a possible replacement for the current leader of the Labour Party, because everyone who is there has never used the opportunity to demonstrate their ability to be independent, to be autonomous in thinking, and to present themselves as an alternative, which is what any healthy party does. Any healthy party does that. And so it will be left to be seen as to who are the current slate of candidates that he will nominate tonight to contest the party. Now, if the current slate that is nominated tonight are no less better than those who have been there before and are only coming in, like some of them who names have already been mentioned, are more or less worshippers of the personality who leads the party, then the Labour Party, sorry to say, unlike the days of the founding Edward Oliver LeBlanc and my father, who was a founding member of the Labour Party, people like members of my family who contested the Labour Party, and I myself, who grew up in the Dominica Labour Party, who was asked by the late Prime Minister Roosevelt Douglas to go up for the Dominica Labour Party at some point in life, in 1999, the point is, what's going to happen is, you will end up again with the gentleman saying, I cannot demit office because there is no one there. So possibly this election might just be an opportunity for him to consolidate his reign on the leadership of the Dominica Labour Party and the Prime Ministership. Or, depending on who he nominates, it means that he would have betrayed his legacy of selection of candidates, and this time chosen someone who can replace him and who can succeed in, who is able to succeed in assuming leadership of the Dominica Labour Party. So as far as I can say on that second question, it's left to be seen.
Yeah, tonight it will be interesting, the slate which is unveiled tonight. Some political observers say, don't be surprised, the name of the wife of the Prime Minister is featured prominently in candidates who will succeed him in the office of the Prime Minister.
Well, all I will say to that is that would be a serious reflection on the Labour Party's perception of the people of Dominica, and also an understanding of the qualities of governmental leadership.
Fair enough, but
for governmental leadership.
Fair enough, but the astute gentleman, through his campaign commercials over the last decade, has loudly advertised that Dominica is a Skerit country. I think that was the tagline.
Unfortunately,
the tagline.
That's unfortunate for any country. That's unfortunate for any country. No country belongs to any one man.
That's what the individual has advertised.
Right.
Finally, Mr. Joseph, do you expect any fallout from past MPs following this evening's announcement?
Well, I don't think I want to suspect or predict any of that, because that would depend, one, on how independent they are, how brave they are, how fearless they are, and how courageous they are to stand up. And on the other side, it will always also depend on how dependent are they on him for their livelihoods, for their independence, or their own need for transparency, so to speak. That would depend. Not to deviate because look at what happened in Portsmouth. It is a well-known fact that the former MP for the Portsmouth constituency, Honorable Ian Douglas, the nephew of Roosevelt Skerit, Roosevelt Douglas, the former Prime Minister, was never on good terms with the current Prime Minister. However, he was always the chief whip, the first seconder in charge. While many times, there was even once publicly when he expressed his grievance, but he never had the fortitude, so to speak, in spite of his independence and in spite of the stronghold of the constituency which he held, to express independence. He has silently demitted the scene. He has openly stated he's not contested and has gone silent. And a man like that, with, I think, the backing of the constituency that he has, with the influence of his family in the constituency, one would assume that someone like that, and he's a lawyer, so he has a profession, would make a statement publicly, but he has not. People have heard he does not contest, and that's it. He has gone quiet. So that speaks as an indicator of things to come as to whether anybody is going to speak up.
It also speaks of the level of control the current Prime Minister has over Dominica. We'll talk again, Mr. Joseph.
You said it, not me.
We'll talk again very soon, especially when we get closer to polling day, to speak about some of the issues which are going to weigh in on voters' minds, to see exactly what's the strategy from the political opposition.
I'll tell you one thing. What's on voters' minds is, by and large, Dominicans are suffering. Dominicans are fed up. Dominicans are expressing a lot of discontent and a lot of dissatisfaction with their income, with the economy, with their livelihoods, with the social conditions of the country. And even many people who support the Dominica Labour Party privately will express a lot of discontent and dissatisfaction with the country. But they live in fear. And so just bear with me a minute. Dominicans have never voted on issues. Dominicans have always voted on a sort of messianic idol figure. And in recent past, I would say, in the recent past, okay? And even so, one of the sad realities of Dominican politics is that personalities have always taken precedence over policies and philosophies, and that's very sad. People have always been able to promote people over what is good for the country.
That's why that's why I tell you quickly, don't be surprised if the name of the MP for Central Roseau comes close to that of your next Prime Minister.
Her victory was largely due to the color of her skin, the texture of her hair, and her family background. And there, unfortunately, in the Caribbean, there are people who worship high color people, thin hair, and high names. Unfortunately, that is one of the lasting legacies of colonialism and bourgeois social elite, pseudo-social elite that exists, that people are still, magnified and awed by good looks. And it's an issue in politics, sadly, in the Caribbean.
Caribbean politics. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Joseph. We'll talk again soon.
Have a good day.
On the heels of the...
And just allow me to express my co-sympathy with the people of Saint Lucia on the flooding that you experienced. Because we in Dominica sadly experience the same thing. And it is even more egregious that an election was called the very night in Dominica that people were without lights. People were lost. People could not be found. Roads were closed. Landslides came down. And while people were looking to see if their families were alive, they did not have water. They did not have food. Their houses were flooded. And the devastating situation that people were in and the emotional stress that people were going through. The best thing that could have been done by a leader of a country on that very night, while people were wondering whether their loved ones were alive or whether they had a house or a shelter over their head or they could access their loved ones, is to call an election.
The Prime Minister will respond and say hope is at the polls. We'll talk again soon, Mr. Joseph. Thank you very much.
Hope is a relative term.
Thanks so much for coming in. Political observer, Dominican at heart, coming in on the first part of this discussion. We'll talk to a former government minister over in the Commonwealth of Dominica in just a bit. And we'll also hear from Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerit. Interesting times in Caribbean politics. I sure know that there are some lessons for other political organizations across the Caribbean, particularly opposition parties, as we continue to monitor what unfolds in Dominica. Stay with us. We'll be back next to hear from the Prime Minister, and then later we'll bring on a former government minister on Beyond the Headlines today, Tuesday.
Ooh la la! See what's new at Courts. We've got great deals on living and dining room sets, appliances, electronics, and smart devices, and more. Shop today with no cash using Courts Ready Finance, 3 to 48-month payment plans available. Shop in-store or online at shopcourts.com. Come see what's new and take advantage of these great deals. Only at Courts. Bringing value home. Conditions apply.
Get your clothes sparkling clean with whiter whites and brighter colors. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. Ultra concentrated formula gives more washes with brightening factors added to keep your clothes looking new. And with the added organic fabric softener, your clothes will be soft and fluffy. Joby antibacterial washing powder is also effective in stain removal for cleaner, brighter, softer clothes with the sweet scent of early spring morning. Use Joby antibacterial washing powder. My family, my love, my Joby. Available at supermarkets island-wide. For orders, call 455-3076.
Sometimes life can knock you off the ground, but surprisingly, an encouraging word can hoist you back to your feet. What we all need is someone in our corner, someone like Dr. Tanji.
Hi, I have 3 questions for you. 1, have you discovered your purpose? 2, have you discovered your ability? And 3, are you planning your life's path?
Dr. Tonji has inspired audiences on radio stations throughout the US and in the Caribbean on Kiss FM with the Dr. Tonji Show. Now, sister station Hot 7 TV teams up with Kiss FM to bring the Dr. Tonji Show to television.
I will share my wealth of experience, my affinity to life, and assist you in fulfilling your call. By tuning in to the Dr. Tonji Show on Hot 7 TV and Kiss FM, you and I will begin to explore the answers to these questions and many more. And in these challenging times, it's just what the doctor ordered.
Mourning a loss? Hot 7 TV wants to help you celebrate the beautiful memory of your loved one with In Loving Memory, Celebrating Lives. Whether it's a birthday, a wedding anniversary, or some memorable occasion, or the anniversary of the passing of the dearly departed, Hot 7 TV will create a moving video tribute of that special person, showing how much he or she meant to you. Treasured memories, unforgettable moments. Share them with the world and repeat the airing as often as you'd like. Help keep your loved one's memory alive forever in the minds and hearts of all who care. In Loving Memory, Celebrating Lives. Contact us at telephone number 452-6040 or email us at inlovingmemory@caribbeanhottv.com.
A young man from Bagatelle is dead. Calls on the public to not stigmatize his fatal accidents along the Bexar Highway leaves Tremendous Shannon welcomes the scrutiny of its CI. One man is in police custody following the shooting death of the wife of a police officer.
Look out for the midday news with Daniela Edwin on Hot 7 TV.
What's up, guys, and good morning. My name is O'Neal OJ Joseph, keyboard player for Morgan Heritage, and I'm asking you guys to check out Good Morning St. Lucia Vibes at Sunrise with Shannon Lebourne on weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on Hot 7 TV. Check it out.
Thanks for staying with us on this Tuesday. In just a bit, we'll bring on former government minister in Dominica, Mr. R.T. Martin, to continue the discussion, intriguing, interesting discussion, developments over in Dominica. Good morning. Special shout out to Mr. Isai Hall, who's tuned in. Thanks for the support. Thanks for always making us your choice, Isai, and cheers to a fantastic Tuesday. Ms. Fortuna Anthony, who's always locked in. Happy Tuesday to you and all of our regular viewers. We love and appreciate each and every one of you, even though I don't shout you out by name. I love you and you are very dear to our heart. Thanks for making us your choice. Our friends in Sufra